Okay. Guten Morgen. Je mange the red beans and rice ici. Yeah, you got up in time. Well, I actually didn't start the stream until 10. And I think I may be able to do Mondays at 10. Like so that I could schedule this stuff. Yeah, je mange red beans and rice, you see. Right now, I'm going to play some music since I do that in the beginning. We'll listen to a couple tunes while I mange, and I will turn the mic off, and we'll get started with the What's Wrong with This Universe. And we can chat in the meantime. Good morning, Mock. Good morning, Dawn. Now I'm awoken in our bed, another night, another time. You need attention. I'm sure something that I said, acted on, or believed in that you didn't. And you don't care that I'm tired and need some sleep. And you'll just pack your bags so I can see this time you mean it. I hear the stretching of the spring as you're charging out the door. I'm always startled by the bang as it slams in place once more. Now I'm reeling in our bed, trying to figure out what's next, but it's different. You've lost some poundage on that scale inside my head, now it tips towards independence. And somehow I don't care if you don't rejoin me. And this time that you've left, I'm starting to enjoy it. I'm through with all those awkward times I was forced to sit and listen and take the notes of all my crimes and assign them definitions. And how tenacious you would wait till I forgive and rewind. No, I'm gone this time. I can take you down, and I'm not gonna lose the screen door that you slammed. Well, your silhouette's in view, and I won't be around to fight with shadows in the night. I can take you down. I smell the dirt on you. I smell the dirt on you. I'm still amazed at all the ways you've been failure and sins, and how my brain did slowly change till I started to believe it. And while I'm wishing you the best, don't be turning around this time. No, I've made my mind. I can take you down, and I'm not gonna lose the screen door that you slammed. Well, your silhouette's in view, and I won't be around to scream in two-part agony. I can take you down. I smell the dirt on you. I smell the dirt on you. I smell the dirt on you. I smell the dirt on you.
It's time to improve your right.
nothing to do. There's everything to feel. I find myself shocked at every turn of the wheel. And there's no one to talk to. There's everything to doubt. And I find myself wondering, who couldn't I live without it? So every day I take a step, asking you what is gonna happen next. And I know that you hear me, so speak to me. Tell me how to be. You're the only one that I need to see. So speak to me. When everything's changing, it's easy to give up, to feel like there's no hope, and that I've run out of luck. Now I know life isn't easy, but it shouldn't be this hard. And if I keep holding on to the past, I won't get very far. So every day I take a step, asking you what is gonna happen next. And I know that you hear me, so speak to me. Oh, tell me how to be. You're the only one that I need to see. So speak to me. Speak to me. Tell me how to be. Oh, you're the only one that I need to see. So speak to me. Speak to me, me. Speak to me.
Good morning. 'Tis Monday, August 14th. Your kids in school, if you got them, probably. My kids are in school. And it's an adjustment period. So if they're adjusting, I might need to adjust to a schedule too. Yeah, those songs, let's see. The first one was Matthew Moore. Song called I Can Take You Down. That was recorded here at the Marigny in New Orleans. This second one was Jesse Taylor. They both happen to be my cousins. But that ain't saying much because, like, you know, you spit and hit someone I'm related to down here. I love all their stuff though. I did play on this second record. I played on my other cousin's record too, but not on that song. So where are we at today? There's Travis. I just went and visited him this weekend, and my other brothers there in Lawrence, Mississippi, just outside of Jackson, on their property, and we did some filming. And I should have that footage pretty soon. I've been clipping up the January footage that we shot, and now there's enough probably to throw out some compelling stuff. But for now, this is, what is this? What's wrong with this universe? That's part 2. I need part 1. And I also need to turn the speed probably down. Hope everyone's doing good. This morning, I was thinking Mondays at 10 might work. I don't know 100% for sure yet, but I think it would work. I think Mondays at 10 could work.
Hello.
There we are. Okay, that's too fast. I had red beans and rice for breakfast. I made it last night. We ate good this weekend. Oh my Lord. We had pork butt, slow cooked in a smoker. Travis made it. Travis and my brother Aaron. It was delicious. Ate it all day and night. And probably the next morning we had eggs. But we was tired when we got back. Oh, we went swimming, stuff like that. It was way out in the middle of nowhere. I had no reception. I wanted to try to get. I actually tried to get onto the chat on the chatathon, and no signal, which explains why I can't get a hold of my mom, and that's confusing. But mom 1, 2, 3. I lost mom 3. Mom 2. Travis's mom, adopted mother. We can't call each other for some reason. She can call people in Jackson, I think, but it's not. And she can call people in Lake Charles, but for some reason it's not, like when I call her, it doesn't work. Okay, so let's dig into what we got here. There, Mondays at 10 maybe, because I mean there's so many. Look, blop, blop. It's 2 folders. Some of these I've already done, but there's 200, almost 300 videos or something. Blop. Right, quite a bit to get through. So, let's see. Let me get back to this one. Working through the concepts. Okay. All right. Focus. Monday morning. We've already had our breakfast. We've already done our coffee. Right. We got a full night's sleep. That's why I turned the camera off. Look, if y'all saw that red beans and rice, if you at work, you'd be going to talk to your boss. Hey, can I run to the store real quick and get me something to eat, to mange. All right. Life in the fast lane. Do that, and let's roll. Are y'all ready? Are we ready? Freddie, what is this breakfast that you speak of? Oh, damn. didn't make her breakfast. Oh, shit. I'm embarrassed. I just went and made my breakfast. I came in and ate because it was almost 10-ish. It wouldn't have been that much more effort to make another freaking bowl of red beans and rice. I'm sorry.
Hello. Woke up with a headache that felt like I had a drill press going straight through my head. It was raining all day, so I slept most of the day. Be completely honest, feeling a little under the weather, literally and figuratively. Not sure if you can relate, but there's a line from a song by the Eagles, "Life in the Fast Lane, everything all the time." I always loved that line. This weekend was one of those everything all the time weekends. A lot of stuff going on all at once. It's not big surprise. This is kind of a personal video, along with something that may shock. I don't, maybe not shock, but may alarm some people because of what I'm going to say about a particular something that Hubbard wrote. A couple of things, but one in particular. I'm not going to pull out tons of references. I have What's Wrong with This Universe in front of me right now. And the reason I'm going to talk about it is because, believe it or not, whenever I read the some people read the Bible, some people read the Quran, some people read Scientology books, some people read self-help books, some people read whatever they want to read. But there's some classic literature.
No shit. People read whatever they want to read. Well, that's some really deep stuff.
Or classic texts or classic whatever. My particular favorites have been The Art of War, the Tao Te Ching, Proverbs, and Psalms, and some of the Gospels. The 4 Gospels. Now, just so you know, before I read this and tell you my interpretation of it, there is no part of me that validates the study of Scientology. No part of me that validates it. However, there are if a madman speaks the truth, it's recognized as truth. It's whenever he goes off into his mad ramblings that you it's like, okay, he's clearly lost his mind. But if someone you consider crazy or a madman says something that is validated in other religions or studies or texts or whatever, there's no disputing the validity of it. And problem with one of the most insidious things about Scientology is that Hubbard took some of the most beautiful, simple truths and then started to go crazy in elaborating and trying to think he could expound and elaborate and improve what was already a basic truth that you knew. And that's for me the basic truths. You know, when I see them, I recognize them as such, and at least for me. And when I look back at the times when I was on course, very first times on course, and there was a idea presented that I already had considered or had already studied in some other religion, I was like, for some reason it felt like a new piece of information, something that I had already known but rediscovered, or had forgotten and rediscovered. So
I'm not. I don't. Well, am I being? How am I being hard on myself, Dawn? Is it because I haven't stopped and made any comments yet? This is sort of a lead up to something. The main idea behind this is like very basic truths in any like group that teaches you basic truths, you know, like church. You know, it's not all evil out there, believe it or not. There's a lot of it, and people are people. No one is perfect, and these abuses happen. You know, that old saying, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So you know, you hear it all the time, but like, if you really think about that, it's, I don't think there's a situation in it where there's 100% chance of anything, but it's a high percentage chance that more often than not, or there's a percentage chance. Let's just say that there's a percentage chance that enough power will corrupt someone absolutely. And so teaching basic truths in groups, and then adding what I am going to later refer to as hooks, could call them triggers, I guess, but they're more or less cognitive dissonance. I called them hooks for a long time. I don't remember when this video was shot. If that painting is on the wall, then that probably means that we were in the process of treating Dale Abshire's studio at Octane Sound, and I was crashing in the old trailer because I couldn't stay in the studio, but I was probably also staying in the studio more than I was staying here at this trailer. But the painting would be there in the studio normally, so it was probably during that time where we had not just the painting, but all of the equipment from the trailer for the live sound reinforcement. Bunch of big speakers. So that's about my best estimate, which would be probably late 2016 or early 2017. It's hard to say. I know I'd been to the hospital because that was on my wrist, and that was from an IV. So, we are looking for Blue's Clues. This is the hard sell pack, and I'm going over the what is wrong with this universe reference. And so I'm about to point out the truths in it, and then the hook or the cognitive dissonance or cognitive bias that, this was, I talked about biases, and we talked about biases and how we all have them. But when you start stacking up these like certain types of biases, confirmation bias, you get enough of it, you repeat it, the primacy effect is related to biases. So the more you hear something, the more you tend to think it's true. And if you are in the Church of Scientology, every word of what Hubbard wrote is true. And if you don't understand it, it's a misunderstood word. So I'm taking, I think, 3 lines that have some kernels of truth, and then a line that doesn't. And, explaining it at that time how I'm figuring it out. So let's continue.
It's 2 things that I want to talk about. One of them is in what's wrong with this universe. It's from the Philadelphia Doctor course, which if you follow the supporters group, there's people who, say, I studied the PDCs, because it's a big course, right? It's called a doctorate course. And indeed, the time you spend in Scientology learning some of the courses, you could have easily gotten a degree in something else more useful. Some cases, multiple degrees or even a doctorate. But in What's Wrong with This Universe from the PDCs, there is a definite influence of the Tao Te Ching and the Art of War, in that what you think about tends to expand, and not just the Tao Te Ching and the Art of War, but also.
So the cycle of anxiety relates to this. What you think about tends to expand. If you go into a sort of an anxious state, you can quickly snowball into, morning, Chad. Hey, buddy. We were in Jackson filming, and in Lawrence, Mississippi, where there's just no signal. I tried to get into the chat to say hi and visit, but there was no signal, and we were, film crew working. So I hope everything went okay. Did y'all get it? We love chat. I love all the waterfall videos and stuff. Wish there was maybe there is, and I just don't know about it, a loop feature, because the sound of the waterfalls is actually really good, considering it's a phone, and it's relaxing. It's good white noise. Okay. I'm curious if I'm just curious how the chatathon went. Dawn, some of y'all were probably there. How did it go? I was in Lawrence with a bunch of dogs and my brothers. I just thought about that for a second, and I'm like, which ones are really the dogs and which ones are the brothers? I've put them in a playlist. Well, yeah, that requires making a playlist, Brian. I'm not lazy. I'm just busy doing all a bunch of other stuff. There is a loop feature. It's under settings where you can speed. Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Okay. Monday mornings. Life in the fast lane, everything all the time. Like straight into it. Blah. Yeah, heady concepts for a Monday. Fuck it. Fuck it. Right? Let's do it.
For the Dhammapada and the Sings.
Oh shit. We went great. We're raised over $2,000. All right. Claps and emotes, emojis, and Instagram posts and YouTube and hundreds. There we go. Hundreds. Let's do 2,000. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's how many right there. Sandy, Yerkins Powers, the chatathon was better than any Jerry Lewis-thon I used to watch. Some of the acts though were pretty good, but a lot of them were freaking terrible. And so I could see chatathons being way more entertaining. Okay, so that sigh was a nice relieving sigh that things went well. I was hoping they were, and things went well in Jackson as well. So good news all around. It's freaking awesome. All right, onward we go. What's wrong with this universe?
The Buddha and the Buddha Sutras.
Buddha and the Buddha Sutras is what's wrong with this universe. No. Here we go.
In the sayings of the Buddha, in the first saying of the Buddha is, we are what we think. With our thoughts we make the world.
I wanted to stop right there because the first thing in the Dhammapada is what I just said. And, with our thoughts we make the world. The first thing that Anton LaVey proclaimed was, do what thy wilt shall be the whole of the law. And this is something that Hubbard mentioned at some point. I don't remember what lecture. And I don't know, as far as I know, there wasn't maybe there was a direct connection. If there was, but there wasn't, whatever. Doesn't change the point that do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law is more in line with Scientology than with our thoughts we make the world. Message.
And so, with those things in mind, what you think about tends to expand. With our thoughts, we make the world.
Again with the Buddha. So, with our thoughts, we make the world. What we think about tends to expand. If you've ever had anxiety, you understand that pretty well. You can spiral, but it can occur with other states of feelings. So it can be incredibly positive, instead spiraling positively, spiraling in happiness, spiraling in joy and appreciation, gratefulness. I think, and this is just a theory, I guess, I think that there's some correlation, maybe it's illusory correlation bias, but some correlation between your biases, including in illusory correlation, and all the other biases that tend to influence where that goes. So if you've got certain biases stacked up that cause anxiety, like cognitive dissonance happening a lot, that seems to be stemming from a bias that you may have, then that could cause a negative spiral. Whereas if you find other biases, or adopt other biases, or develop it, however you do it, it can go in a different direction.
Here are the 3 quotes from What's Wrong with This Universe out of the hard sell pack that
Doom spiral galore. I mean, I know what that. Hey, Belladonna, welcome. Good morning from Seattle. Don't know if you know, but Chadathon raised over $2,000. That's fantastic. You were probably there. I'm probably one of the only people that wasn't there. That's probably what it is. Let's see here. Doom spiral. Yeah. I can relate to the doom spiral. That's why I wanted a spiral of doom. My mom used to let us kids put on a neighborhood show. This is Dawn. And send the money we made to the Jerry Lewis funding. Aw, that's sweet. Oh, this is a good point, Brian. I think isn't the first step in the Eightfold Path, quote, the right way of viewing the world? Yeah, the Eightfold Path, if I'm not mistaken, I'm no theologist, but is different than the Dhammapada, sayings of the Buddha. I'm not sure which came first even. So, but yeah, you're probably right. The first step is probably the way of viewing the world. And I think it correlates well with the sayings of the Buddha, because it starts with our thoughts we make the world. See if I can remember any more of it. I listened to it so much. With our thoughts we make the world. Nope, it's not coming to me right now. It may later, and I'll share it if it does, because it's there. It was definitely part of my reprogramming. So I may have reprogrammed myself to be a Buddhist or a Taoist at this point. Sort of a triage treatment.
believe it or not, in his own words, actually check out. I'm not validating Scientology. You can't validate truth. Truth is truth. Now, he does have his own language.
I think there's some error in what I just said. You know, you can't validate truth. Truth is truth. I mean, proof. Like truth, the proof is in the pudding. Truth is self-evident, right? So, I suppose. But it gets more complicated because everyone has perspective, and their perspective is truth. So that's kind of a little deeper than I am ready to delve into today. Today, Monday, August 14th, 2023.
Just like when you read something in different translations. So the first quote is, "That which a person works hardest on, he winds up having." That's one of the fundamentals of this universe.
Welcome, Beachcomber. Earlier, I was saying that, you know, I'm trying to feel out a schedule because balance is important for me. Health, diet, exercise, work, and I've done a couple of streams like last week and the week before where it was really early here, like as early as 8, I think I did one. But usually at 8 is when I'm waking up, and I'm kind of awake enough to do something by 9, but I need to usually eat. So today I got up and started working on editing at 9, and I realized, okay, well, if I'm going to do any kind of schedule, like Monday would probably work. We'll see. I think it will, but we'll just have to see. Monday at 10, and that's CST, Central Time Zone. So that's 8 o'clock in California. That's early, unless you have a day job that requires you to go to work before 10. And on the East Coast, it's noon. And then in the UK, in London and stuff, it's 10? 8 hours ahead? Or 6. So, yeah. That seems to be a reasonable time for what I call day walkers. So the people who are here, day walkers. I'm more of a creature of the night. Honestly, I prefer to be nocturnal, and I get my best work done at night because everything's so quiet. All those brains are asleep all across, not all of them. The ones that are awake are probably more like mine. It's 4 p.m. UK for you. I guess there's multiple time zones in the UK. I don't know. Because I thought it was 8 hours ahead from where I'm at in Central Time. But either way, I was talking about that which one, Hubbard's interpretation of probably, I presume, the Dhammapada and some of the Taoist teachings that he reworded into a new sci-fi way, where he says that which one puts the most effort into, he winds up having. It's just as simple as that, or something like that. And he refers to matter, energy, and space and time. So, new wave concept at the time. 1952 is when he wrote this. So, and there was, like, if you listen to Alan Watts and listen to his aspersions about philosophy and psychology and theology at those times in the 60s or even 50s, and other, I wish I could think of other names at the time, but Alan Watts sticks out because he wasn't like he wasn't really an incredulous source. They could incredulate, if that's even a word, or they could establish incredulity to someone like Terence McKenna or what's that other guy's name? Timothy Leary or Ram Dass even. Yeah, Ram Dass would be a credible, a non-incredulatory source. What am I trying to do? Just make up words. There was the reason why there was this sort of like incredulity bias, let's call it that, in some of the psychology, theology, and philosophy fields was because of the hippie movement and the release of this chemical LSD and 25. Was it LSD 25? And the people taking it were able to have pretty really deep discussions with some of the most well-educated people in the in their respective fields, psychology, theology, and philosophy. So, but they weren't considered credible because they were just burnt-out hippies, acid freaks. So, Hubbard, I don't know if he saw this or not, but I mean, whether he did or not, it was there. And there was, a more conservative group of demographic that didn't want to accept anything Eastern. The World War II Japanese culture. I mean, we put Japanese in internment camps here in the United States while the war was going on, just for no real damn good reason. There's a wonderful book about it. It's heartbreaking, but it's about a little girl who grew up in the internment camp in the United States. I can't remember what it's called. Rising Sun. Yeah. So he's hitting on social demographics that are maybe looking for something more than what their traditional, like, Anglo-Catholic religions are bringing them, especially the kids of the the greatest generation, the baby boomers. And there was a lot of them. So, all right, that's enough aspersions on that.
That to which he devotes energy, he finally has. How do you work this out? Matter is condensed energy. So therefore, if you keep pouring out energy on something, you will eventually have it. I mean, it's just as simple as that, end quote.
Now that's, fairly accurate in my experience. However, it's not, he leaves out an important aspect. It's like sort of the quality of it. There's a quality of doing like what it is, like that which you put the most effort into, you'll eventually have it. You can do that in a way that's destructive. Right? He doesn't make that distinction. He just says you can do it in full stop.
To me, this means the same thing as with your thoughts you make the world, and what you think about tends to expand. So if all you're thinking is negative things, that will tend to expand. If you think positively, that tends to expand.
And it may not come, it's not a surprise to anybody. I'm not going to pretend that y'all are stupid. You're not. Like, bad people get to very high places. So, in a way, that statement that excluded how you do it is, hard to argue, because it doesn't matter if people are good or bad. What they focus their efforts on, if they continue to do it and never stop, they tend to get it. But it's sort of it is kind of a thought terminating cliche. It has the power to be that, for sure. I think everything in moderation, including moderation, plays a part, and also something statistical serendipity, which is formerly known as serendipity, but no one could explain it. But there is some statistical facts behind serendipity. I'm reading a whole book about it right now. It's called Serendipity Mindset. It's a fantastic book. I'm almost at chapter 4, and I'm really, really, really digging it, because my dad used to talk about serendipity all the time, and he was like, "Son, serendipity isn't just some kind of fairy or something." Again, he was so ahead of his time, and I love discovering things like that. Even they might seem insignificant to someone else, but you know, that it brings new life to my father, you know, who's gone, who I miss. And you know, grief is a lifelong thing. So, if they stay in your memory, they're never really gone, though, right? Death is sort of a human. I think death is sort of a human a human idea. Animals don't think of death until they are faced with it. Like, in other words, they don't. Nothing's a problem until it's a problem, and then even then, it's not a problem. If it gets killed, oh, well, shit. I got ate by that alligator. But you know, it's a simpler mechanism. It's some would say a less refined brain, but I don't think it's any less refined. I think it's quite well attuned. You know, biodiversity and nature and stuff. It's just amazing.
So you must be very careful as to what you think.
And that part is really. I also feel strongly about still. You know, be careful if you're not. You know, with our thoughts we make the world. If you don't like that, fine. But like, be careful what you think. You know, like, I think that's good advice. I think because of the biases and the spiraling we talked about, it's like, just, you know, be cautious in how you think, because you can quickly go wow, 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 wow. People with major depressive disorder and PTSD and you know, experience with any kind of like domestic violence or childhood trauma, which I don't know anybody who's experienced that in this chat or me, but you know, there's people out there that might have experienced that, and that can be a difficult thing, you know, just to even, you know, be mindful of what you're thinking.
Quotation, ellipses. The more you validate something, this is alter is, because I said validate. It says validated. That's a big no-no in Scientology. But the more you validate something, the stronger it gets. Basic theory.
Belladonna Chronicles says, you are correct, Marcus. Asian prejudice. Japanese people were treated awful. Yes. To this day, those families never got property back. So sad. Yeah, I think that's part of the end of the book. And I wish I knew the name of the book. I'd have to message my friend Ashley. She's the one who had it in her house when I was staying there. And she's like, it was like a book that was just sitting on the table. I'm like, you gonna read that? She had already read it, like in college, I think. But yeah, I wish I could think of the name. I'll try to Google it. Try to remember to Google it, because it's a fantastic book. And I have another book recommendation. The Serendipity Mindset, and also a 2022 publication. Can't remember the author. She's at NYU. The Anatomy of Anxiety. The Anatomy of Anxiety is, it's got to be one of the most forefront books in terms of research and new research, and it is really, really good. I need to get another copy of it because I want to have a copy of it so I can reference it. It's a great reference.
So, the more you tell yourself, I am this, the more you're validating yourself as to whatever that is.
And I think this goes like, you know, positive and negative. It's just like your own hypnotic suggestion, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. You know, I am an asshole, or I am okay, or I am an imposter, or I am pretty cool. Whatever. uh, the mindfulness of those thoughts. You know, be if you're not going to go with your thoughts, you make the world. You can't go for that idea. The idea that you should be careful what you think, just for mental health reasons, is, you know, I think relevant and a good thing to consider, and put into practice.
Where he goes off the rails, and I mean way off the rails. This is one of the hooks that, see, free one hand, trap the other. Huh. How about that? I got my athletic tape on today.
Message.
This is where it goes off the rails. But the energy is such that every time you try to go toward a plus or a good thing, the guy's bank will flip into a minus, and boy, if you've never examined this, you've got a real treat in store.
That was my impression of LRH, and Doug does a pretty good impression too. We enjoy our impressions of LRH, especially with the lips. He couldn't really talk without his lips going blah 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 blah. Can you imagine someone talk that much? Has to be what it is. I don't know. I'm not trying to make a personal attack on Hubbard for his physical stuff, because he couldn't help that. I'll attack him on almost every other level, though. Oh man, what a piece of work that guy was.
What the fuck does that even mean? I'm not even going to try to understand it because it doesn't make any sense. What he's saying is a hook. It's a trap.
We got a misunderstood here. Let's clear that. Banality. Banality definition is the fact or condition of being banal. Oh, well, that's not helpful. Banal is so lacking in originality as to be obvious and boring. So like a no duh, no doy, depending on your persuasion there when you were born. Yeah. So that's that definition.
He just said.
Let's go back.
What he's saying is a hook. It's a trap. He just said in the first three quotes something that was true. Remember, I'm not validating Scientology. What I'm doing is I'm explaining that in order to indoctrinate someone, in order to get someone to dedicate themselves to some bullshit, in other words, in order to enslave someone and get them to enslave themselves, you can't simply take a normal person. What is normal, right? You can't take a person and then start just telling them what to do. They have to believe something. There has to be some little bait of truth, some little nugget of truth.
Usually some bias, right? You get someone to, even a bias that they don't have, you can sort of, through body routing, this is how you do it. You get someone's bias. You get them to entertain the idea. Excuse me. That red beans and rice was good. You get them to entertain a bias, and even if just for novelty. And that's an opportunity to start, like, if they have other biases, you can then, bounce off of and sort of like see if there's any chinks in the armor, so to speak, that you can exploit. This is not intentional on the member of the staff or the public, because it's the scripture. Essentially, Hubbard is called source, and it's source material. So you're just taking source and applying source, expecting the result to be a world without war, criminals, and yada yada yada. The goal, the stated goal of Scientology.
That is then bait and switch. And the bait and
So you find the chink in the armor, you take that bias, and then you switch it with yours. Best I could describe it.
switch here is in the nonsense that he says, but energy is such that every time, he's saying that energy or thought, whatever, is such that every time you try to go toward a...
Okay, Mock's paying attention. Gold star. Where's my gold stars? Blah. They're just hearts and parties. Hearts. Party. Mocked. Let me look it up just a little bit too. All right. Okay, yeah, I'll go. Care for JC. Does that stand for Jesus Christ? Curious. I can't respect anyone who literally stole 80% of his philosophy from others. Hey, I'm with you on that. You know, I didn't know he stole it. I was dumb. You know? People say, you weren't dumb, da-da-da-da. Yeah, I was dumb kid. And I was troubled, too. So, yes, it stands for JC. I love that. I don't know if you've seen my crucifix, but I have a St. Christopher medal that I got from my brother for safe travel a long time ago, right around when me and Travis met. And then I have a cross that my uncle gave me before I moved to California, and when me and Travis were in rehab. And it's not necessarily... Whoa, sounds like the trash is running. I thought that only went Thursdays. Yeah, they just have sentimental value, just like my my ghost beads, my Jacob's tears. And you know, the weird thing is that those have been used for hundreds of years in my heritage, and I didn't even know it. But like when I got them from my uncle, who was my dad's best friend, like I knew it was important. He only made 10 of these things. I got one of them, and yeah, they're polished and whatever. They have a lot of like older meaning, but 98%, I don't know. I mean, I gotta love me some Jesus. I love the idea of Jesus. Like I said in the video, like I do like reading Proverbs. I like reading the book, the 4 Gospels, and I used to love reading Revelation just because it was almost like if I didn't have a comic book or a book that I bought from the school fair or something, I read all of my books, I'd be like, man, Revelation is some deep, crazy, demonic shit. And that's how I looked at it, perceived it. There's something going on that side. All right. So Mock, it's connected to Hannah Arendt's reporting of the Eichmann trial, which, if you don't know, Adolf Eichmann was held responsible for I don't know how many deaths of the Jews. I think it was the gas the gas chambers. Essentially recognizing how easy it is to participate in evil by making it boring and long enough till it's internalized. Yes. Yeah, totally. And then Beachcomber said, you hit the nail on the head there, poet. Self-awareness brings up so much from the deep. We'd all like to keep it there, and this is part of the generation gap. Reflection is for the young and brave. All right. Goodness. That's going to take a minute to soak in. And then Mock says Eichmann was a bureaucrat and that was in charge of the transports of the camps, and just said at the trial, I just stamped files, and that got her inspired to thinking of how banal evil is. Yeah, totally. Amy Jean, being uneducated about philosophy, wherever LRH stole his info from, didn't mean you were a dumb kid. You know, Travis and I discussed that in a way. It was a short, just little observation. We spent time, together and alone in Scientology. And I pointed out that, hey, like, since there are like these little kernels of truth and we recognize them early, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was a bad organization, bad group to be in, but it wasn't bad to recognize the kernels of truth. So, we should give ourselves some credit for that, is what I told him. And he was like, yeah. Okay. We are, I think, caught up. Oh, no. Don't forget to post your coffee link. All right. Buy me a coffee. That one. Welcome back. Okay. Continue with Google. I wasn't even logged in yet. Delay. Why is that there? Okay. There we go. View page. Copy pasta. There we go, and done. Anything else since then? Dawn, Beach, I must be the young and brave. No, Dawn, you are just a special person, and whatever you have, don't try to change it. Can you feel the love and the party? 'Cause we in New Orleans, and I ate some red beans and rice. Okay, here we go.
Plus, all right, be positive. Every time you try to be positive, then the bank will flip into a minus, which the bank, which is your subconscious, unconscious, reconscious, reactive mind.
Reconscious was actually a word in the tech dictionary. I don't remember what the hell it meant. This is more nonsense.
Freudian shit. Stuff that has long since been dismissed as something we can't study.
Now, not just to clarify, this time I don't think I was in college yet, but yeah, I said Freudian shit as if like none of it was valid. There were some things that were and some things that weren't. This was one of the things that wasn't in relation to how it was implemented in Scientology. So I did a bad job at sort of articulating it. And yeah, like there's still, I'm looking at this face and I'm thinking I was still working it all out, trying to work it out. In public, because I couldn't talk to people in my family or my friends about it, because this stuff was just like, if I were to talk to them, if I were to just start rambling about this stuff, I was afraid they were going to want to put me in a loony bin or something. So, or worse, it would just sort of like isolate me further from my friends and family. So I just kept it on the cool with my friends and family, didn't talk much about Scientology, and then did it in this atmosphere in YouTube, which has been like, I'd say 90% nothing but positive stuff. Great community here, way better than freaking Facebook. Oh my God. I don't know. People talk about evil corporations, Google and Meta, and it's like, yeah, maybe, because I've heard some crazy stories. But at least, on this platform, on YouTube, I have felt, and it could just be all an illusion. Maybe they're moderating the crap out of everything. But the community here is the way that they connect people is much more positive, at least since its inception. Like, there's been more positive than negative. Facebook was designed from the beginning to sort of like feed on those urges of like conflict. Whereas YouTube, I don't feel was so much that way. Although I do see that in the algorithm now.
Then that we don't know much about. We cannot define that which is undefinable. That it doesn't. You can't account for something that you can't measure. Yet he tries. So he assumes that any time you have a positive thought, that the reactive mind is going to say, oh no, can't have a positive thought. And this is the hook that gets into your head.
Engrams in particular is something that I think of when, can't have a positive. When you think anything positive, something good's going to happen. When you predispose someone to the idea or the bias that the reactive mind is always attacking you, then you're creating an alternate identity within yourself that is constantly fighting your positive and survival urges, which is hilarious in a way, and comedic in the traditional tragic sense. That he talks about, the dynamic principle of life is survival, and yet everything about his philosophy and teachings are anti-survival.
Previous three statements are actually pretty spot on if you know the language of Scientology. The third paragraph, quote, is the hook. And when I say hook, I mean like a hook in your head or a hook in your mouth to get you to think every time you have a positive thought, there's going to be a negative thought. And that is something you have no control over without the help of Scientology. Quite clever. Very, very devious and insidious trap. Mental trap. So the last thing he says is, when you devote your own energy to it, you're going to have something worth having. But when you insist on having that energy handed to you by MEST, matter, energy, space, time, you'll wind up with trash every time. What's funny about this is that that's actually kind of true too.
Thanks for the Lulu bark. I love that. It's not a bark. No, actually, if it was barking, I would probably be like, don't buy me a coffee. It's the cute howl. It's the Lulu that I met and fell in love with, and then we had a falling out, and now we're just living together, with a sort of a unspoken, I guess, connection. There's love there. It's just different.
Because if you are insisting on having energy, and this is loosely defined, handed to you by MEST, matter, energy, space, time, which is very loosely defined. That could be anything. I occupy matter. I am made of matter and energy, and I occupy space and move forward through time. So therefore, I am MEST. So when you insist on having energy handed to you by me, it's not what he says, but he says mess. It's a clever play on words. You'll end up with trash every time. The way I see it, this was from 52. It's almost as if he was saying, "I'm warning you." And there is a I don't know what lecture it is. Heard the quote the other day on some Scientology expose video about, oh, well, you walked in the door. The doors are locked now. You can't get out. You're here. Well, I can get up and walk out anytime I want, just like anybody else can, just like anybody in the Sea Org can, just like, I say that, but, you do have to plan. You can get out. There's been enough people now to have proved that. Staff, public, Sea Org, even people in IT have left. There were no chains on them. There's all hooks in their head. Mental.
So those of you who have heard Mike Render tell his story about getting on that train, can probably relate, even if you've never been in Scientology, because it's a moment of what feels like you're spiraling so far out of control that the next thing that happens is going to either destroy you or free you. And you don't even really care which. I think that's highly relatable to a lot of people. Maybe not everybody. I'm being told by my therapist that, hey, not everybody has these experiences, and perhaps it's true. There's on my screen it says there's 13 people, so that's a very small number of people. So maybe, I tend to think of it as like normal, but when we did the interview in Jackson this weekend, or Lawrence, and I talked to my brother's adopted mother, our mother, Anna McGee, she grew up in a household with like 20 people. And that was normal for her. Nothing abnormal about that. And there was no abuse. They had a very loving father and mother. And her mother was Cuban, and she just loved all the kids, and that was all normal. But it's all like, that's why I think I said earlier, what is normal? What is normal? Yet to be defined.
And I look at this reference now, and I see the truth in it, which is your thoughts, whatever they are, positive, negative, tend to expand. That part's true. If you devote yourself to having thoughts and positive perceptions and affirmations about yourself, your future, your family, anything, consistently, things will improve. But the hook is whenever you start to read and think, and are constantly reading and thinking about this whole reactive mind concept. And when you have another entity, whether it's a person or the group, telling you what to devote your energy on, you'll end up with trash every time. So he's pretty much telling you right there in plain text, You're my slave. And you're so happy to be his slave because he's given you a little bit of truth. And that's all I'm saying, is that in order for someone to be enslaved, there's got to be a little bit of nugget of truth that then can be, that's the bait. And then you're like, wow, that's true. You inspect it, you look at it, that is true. And then the next part comes along and just obfuscates it. And that's like a hook in your head. So the other thing is the idea of second dynamic flows, 2D flows, relationships, family, girlfriends, boyfriends. We weren't allowed to have that on staff. It was strictly third and fourth dynamic activities. Unless it was basically arranged by the executives. And there was a CSW, and I mean, literally.
Wow, Mock, that is, I never thought of it that way, but you're so right. Mock says they even have the same philosophy of work freeing you. You'll see in a lot of movies about World War II, the old posters that they had. Many of them are replicas, that had the same propaganda on it, Goebbels propaganda. I forget what the exact quote was, and it's usually all in German, but they'll like subtitle it through hard work you free yourself or something. All these cultural things. A good German works hard, and the German being depicted, with always like a hammer or something, or in some form of service, work. Great point. I had to stop for that. Let's see. Brian from a Poet says, for you, I can see how that would have been a hook. I'm curious. Why? Belladonna Chronicles. Facebook and YouTube. I only began Discord. I'll drop my Discord link. Do that in case someone wants to hop in. It's relatively quiet at the moment. Discord communities. I've been doing Discord since 2015. Discord communities. Think of them as like lobbies. Kids call them obbies today. They're virtual vestibules, so to speak. And a conversation can start up, and or a vestibule might not have any conversation happen the entire day or for weeks, but then there might be a conversation that happens there. And as time goes on, if a community develops, that vestibule can become sort of like a whole sectionalized group with different topics going on all at the same time. Really, it's just I call it digital telepathy, same as text messaging. The technology that I'm using to do this, is connecting all of us in a way that would not only, not be possible, but, not even within the realm of, imagination. How would that even happen, 20 years ago or 30 years ago? It would have been too big of a problem, but technology helps us solve problems. Yep. So Brian's comment, my comment was about them offering you the audio-visual position of gold. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it was bait, and I didn't take it, so it didn't hook me, thank God. if I'd ended up at gold, I'd probably still be there. And it worries me that they offered me a position at gold because, you know, Tom and Kat, it was just anybody, it doesn't even matter how much information you know. They just don't want you out in the public anymore. Once you've been in, there's a possibility you might know something. You might have seen something. So, or been part or party to some sort of fraud or illegal shit. So, yeah, I mean, as many people as they can get to sign the billion-year contract, the better. And you didn't have to sign a billion-year contract to go to work at gold. You could be a golden era production team member and not be in the Sea Org. Oh, thank God I didn't do that. I was tempted, though, because of the equipment. They have all kinds of awesome gear. And I'm a gearhead. Petition to have a relationship with somebody. And list all the reasons why you should be able to have a relationship, and then get it sent up lines and get it approved or denied. There were several times that I wanted to have a relationship with somebody, and I wrote my CSW, and I was given references to read instead. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I got it, baby. I got it. I fixed it. I don't know how long I was talking without the mic. Lord have mercy on my soul. Okay, I was just talking about 2Ds and how you had to write a CSW to get a 2D. Brief summary, TLDR, you got to write a report. It's like the government, and it's worse than the government because you can't really get help in Scientology. They won't have any sympathy for you. Sometimes you can reach people in the government that will have sympathy for you. It's rare and it takes a long time. And that's basically all I said in that time that I was muted. And I am sorry. I'm so sorry. I need to be more professional. I'm going to be on a schedule and people making Lulu barks. All right. Comment was about the gold position. I think my mic was on during that point in time, but if it wasn't, I was offered a position at gold. I'm glad I didn't get it, and it's kind of scary that I did because if you, doesn't matter what kind of information you have, if you have information, they want you to sign the billion-year contract and keep you under wraps for eternity. And then Don Lambert said, when the truth that we are inwardly hears truth outwardly. Ready for this? Don Lambert. When the truth that we are inwardly hears truth outwardly, the truth we are inside responds, and we kind of get bigger to ourselves. The lies connect to our doubts and unknowing and stick to us. So those are sort of like two different aspects. You know, when we hear truth outwardly, and it validates the truth that's inside, it responds. You get an instinct or a gut feeling, is what I take it to mean. And the lies connect to our doubts and unknowing and stick to us, which I would say lessens our ability to use our instincts. Great observation, great comment. And then, no volume, can't hear you. I can hear, I hear as well. I can't. Yo, Marcus, you're muted. Me either. Must be muted. Now I can't. I still can. Lol. As soon as you pause the video, since you stopped the video last, it's okay. No worries. It happens all the time. Yes, it doesn't need to happen all the time. More coffee. I agree. Carefree or care for JC. Jesus Christ, I'm an idiot. Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
From the art book. And some other miscellaneous references. I don't know which ones. I could probably dig back and find them, but I really could care less. I got the gist of it. The gist is, if you are feeling like you need to have a relationship, but you're not ethical enough to, and you're not approved to, you don't have a CSW, what you are then to do as a handling or well, in some senses, if you want to pull in a relationship, what you do is you create things. But the only thing you're really allowed to create is more Scientologists. So public Scientologists.
Let's go back a sec on that.
So public Scientologists are different. We were instructed differently about their second dynamics, how to handle them on their second dynamics. And if we didn't want them to have a second dynamic, or if the executives didn't want them to have a second dynamic, we would encourage them. Most of the public that we had were artists. We encouraged them to focus and dive.
At Melrose, there were artists, and at Ventura, there were a lot of trade craft, or trade, skilled tradesmen, or real estate people. So they had careers that, you know, if they really applied themselves, they could just go, especially with all the pressure from a registrar like Jim Hamry, to make all that money.
Into their artwork, whatever that was, their craft, music, film, whatever that is. And there is a element of truth to this reference. Don't know the reference. Not going to show you where it's written. I'm a wog now. But what it basically says is that the act of creating gives you the same feeling of love. And
all right, so that was that part. Second part.
play a show. During and after I play a show, I feel very relaxed. I feel like I've had a nice long talk with somebody that I'm very close to. I feel like I just had sex. I feel like there's all these endorphins running through my body. I feel, fulfilled in that way. It's the same fulfillment that you get. It's a similar fulfillment that you get from being in a relationship and having an intimate connection with somebody, sharing an intimate moment. So there is some, like I said, nugget of truth, obfuscate, hook it in your head, slavery. There's a lot to this tech that...
Amy, Jean, did I misunderstand, or did you say you needed to pay to have a relationship by bringing in more people? I guess, I mean, not in a direct sense. More so, it was the CSW, which means completed staff work. And that doesn't necessarily equate to bringing people in and generating money. A completed staff work could be sweeping the floors, or it could be filing things in central files. It could be answering the phones. You know, you can make it up, actually. I did. I would be like, so here's the weird thing about CSWs. You say, you know, I am going, you're not asking, you see. This is one of the things that could probably get Scientology in trouble if I had to guess. Because if you had to ask for permission to do these things, that's like, you know, provable, I don't know what you call it, but it's definitely undue influence. So you say, I am going to take Jessica Sterling on a date. All right. This is okay, and this is part of the formula that you're given for CSWs. This is okay because da 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 da. I did all this stuff. Hey, Bo Beats, welcome. Good morning. Monday mornings, like just jumping right into it stuff. I'm sure there's going to be some that'll be a little more light, but yeah. I kind of wanted to get out of the way some of the heavier stuff, because the further away I get from this time, the less I understand it. You know, because it was a very weird experience making these videos and going through all this stuff and sort of stream of consciousing the things that were going through my mind on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis. So yeah, okay. But to answer your question, Amy, it wasn't ever, no, there was never any exchange money. And also, as I said, anything that was written down, if you were asking a question, they'd be like, you have to rewrite your CSW because, you know, you don't have to ask permission. You just have to get the CSW approved. So crazy. But like, yeah, you say, I'm going to do this. This is okay because blah, 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 blah. And then your senior would write, this is okay. And that's how that would go. Nikarasu, I know a couple that were told they needed to be separated in order to continue up the bridge. Now that I've heard of as well. I mean, it's no secret that Scientology breaks up families, and I would go so far as to say that they screw families up. Anyone who's been a part of it, it will screw a family up that even hasn't been involved. So it's very much, aftermath is very much the correct word to use. And, you know, Aftermath Foundation. I don't have a mod, so I do it all myself. Because I'm hard-headed like that. But, speaking of, there's the link to the Aftermath Foundation. I think they'll provide stuff if you would want to send mailers to orgs. I mean, really, sending mailers to orgs is just a waste of paper, because all the mail is just like in the military. They open your mail, and like my mom had been sending me money, and I didn't know for years. She's like, "You never got all that money that I sent?" No. Holy shit. She was like, "I sent you some money." I never got any of it. They open your mail. So, better places to be would be where, if you are in an area where there's active Scientologists doing body writing or in public, place them around there. If not for the Scientologists themselves, for the people who may fall victim to it. Because if they have that card, the Scientologists, someone may be able to route someone in to do a test, but that person has that card in their wallet. They don't know what really it is, and then they do this personality test. Inevitably, they're going to have to go home at some point, and they pull that card out and they check it out, and they'd be like, "Oh shit, okay, I'm not going back." So, continuing on. And welcome Nick and Janet, and who was the other person that jumped in? All you. All these motherfuckers in here, you know what I'm saying?
You can't just like the Bible, just like any other thing, you can't dismiss it completely. But the disturbing part is there are some pretty deep.
I say you can't dismiss it completely, but really you can. I mean, I can't dismiss it completely, is what I'm saying.
Truths. Those little the pieces of bait. They're fairly substantial pieces of bait, and as you move along, as you move past Scientology, as I've moved past Scientology, I can't help but wonder, sometimes, like, today and last night,
Today,
extremely lonely, and it was a pretty crazy.
now let me just say I'm saying I'm lonely, because I think this is the correct time period where I was spending tons of time in the studio, which is essentially a sensory deprivation chamber that we built out of a portable building. And not only was it just me most of the time, because Dale works really long hours and he's working turnarounds a lot. I was either there or in this room, and I think lonely is part of it, but also isolated is probably more appropriate of a term, because I was extremely isolated.
Weekend, like everything all the time, right? Sometimes make a musical reference again, call on your brother when you need a friend. We all need somebody to lean on. Needed somebody to lean on,
Yes, absolutely.
I am frequently the person people lean on. Believe that or not. I'm happy to be that person. However, I don't like, for some reason, it does aggravate me when there's this. I'm not saying this is right. In fact, I think there's something wrong with it. When people say, "Oh,
Well, what's wrong with you?
you've helped me. Thank you for being here for me. You've been a good friend." I haven't been a good friend to him. I can't do that for myself. I've gotten to a point to where I love myself, and I accept myself, and I don't hate myself. But when people say, those types of things, it's almost like it brings about a certain sadness that I can't be that for myself, and I don't know why.
Some funny stuff. Yeah, I closed my closet doors. It's funny. Doug used to tell me that all the time. Dude, seriously, like, can you at least close your closet doors? Like, be a little professional here. Sure, I'll do it. Yeah. Cynthia says, I've got something for you to lean on. I have a feeling that she's saying it in a very immature way, but it's also very true. And then Jan is your man. Isolation is a form of torture, even if you do it free will, if you do it long enough. That, I didn't want to divert, but I am going to, because there's a short poem by Charles Bukowski that some of you may know, called "Go All the Way." And in this poem, he this, I don't know if it's fair use. If I found let's see. Yeah, okay. So, isolation is the gift. All the others are I can read the whole damn thing, actually. Charles Bukowski, The Laughing Heart, Roll the Dice, narrated by Tom Obedlam. If you're going to try, all right, let's start. This is Go All the Way by Charles Bukowski, and it's related to Jan's comment in how I'm going to respond to it. Bukowski was a post office worker, as I was. My career got cut very short, but he had a long career, and had my career continued, there's a lot of things that he writes that, like, perspective wise, I can get almost from his former life as a postman. So if you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision, mockery, isolation. Isolation is the gift. All the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it. Despite rejection and the worst odds, and it will be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. All the way. All the way. You will ride life straight into perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. I love that poem. And so back to Jan. Is your man. Isolation is a form of torture. Well, that's from that poetry. I'm not trying to be contrary, because I love comments. I love talking with people. But it's a matter of perspective, isn't it? Even in the form, even in whatever form it takes, the isolation. And in my case, the isolation in the studio, it was from free will. I chose it. And I did it too long. But it was a great gift. I derived the meaning from that poem. And it speaks to me as truth and as wisdom. And it goes along with, in some way, parallel to what the Buddhists, the Dhammapada. We are what we think. All that we are arises from our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. That which you think expands. What you tend to think about the most tends to expand. That which, and this is Hubbard's version, that which a person puts the most energy into, he winds up having. It's as simple as that. His concept was that energy is directly related to matter, space, and time. So that if you put enough energy in, it'll sort of just fill in the rest. So again, even years later, I'm not trying to validate Scientology. I'm just pointing out the kernels of truth. And as Amy Jean corrected me earlier, which I appreciate because I need positiveness. I'm very I have a tendency to be very self-loathing, and put myself down, which is not good because, what am I even talking about? With our thoughts, we make the world. Well, what kind of world am I making if I'm thinking that way? So I need to change, I need to work on that. I've made some progress, but probably not as much as some. And great comment, great little offshoot there with the Bukowski. Glad I didn't play the video. I didn't want to risk it and copyrighted, but here is the link to it, and if you want to listen to it later, it's a wonderful performance by the narrator. I don't know who he is. This isn't a plug or anything. It's just I've listened to that particular narration for years and shared it with people, and it's wonderful. All right, let's see. Yep. Cynthia, that I am in a very immature way. Yeah, she got something for me to lean on. Yeah, Dawn says we got to be comfortable with our onlyness. I like that. I like that word, onlyness. Yeah, with yourself. Be okay with yourself alone. Jan, okay. I meant if it's forced isolation, I have to separate that. Now that, yeah, totally. I mean, when you're talking about the whole or something like that, jumping back onto the Scientology subject, yeah, that's different. That's a whole nother ball game. Indeed. Bo Beats, I am an extrovert, but value my isolation greatly. Yeah. it's a weird for me. I'm an ambivert. So isolation is like good and bad. Like I want to do it, but then I don't want to do it. I want to. When I do it, it's good, but it's getting myself to the point to where, because like when I write a lot, I will be isolated. Like a lot of times when I'm writing, I don't feel comfortable writing even in the same. Most of the writing I do is completely alone. So it's just what I'm used to. And Mock says isolation can be healing too because it drowns out all the sensory overload. Yes, the studio was a sensory deprivation chamber, and it allowed me. These are the times when I would wake up and cry for 3 hours straight, and I'm not even kidding on the length. Like 3 hours, I would cry, and that's probably the longest because I remember looking at the clock. I'm like, Jesus, I've been crying since it's 9. I woke up at 9. I've been crying since 9 is noon. Didn't feel like that long, but what it was allowing me to do with the sensory, not having sensory overload, which I was having in many areas of my life at the time, with legal stuff, with friends stuff that was like horrific. My surrogate daughter, my friend Isaac, who had almost ended his life in my house after his divorce, while I was going through my divorce. Loss of access to the kids, supervised visitation, losing all of my assets, having to sell all of my equipment, living in a car, living place to place, having to, earlier on trying to like locate my children. Like this is a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, having lack of, like being able to go in a place that was basically a sensory deprivation tank allowed me to quiet myself and be okay, as Dawn said, with that word that I like, onlyness. Be okay with my onlyness. Onlyness is better than loneliness. That's catchy. And let's see here. This is good stuff. Cynthia, Dawn says, Cynthia immature or cutely way? I think cutely. Yes, she's cute as a button and silly as a worm. Amy Jean, it's hard work learning to appreciate yourself more. Fuck yes. It's really hard. It is really hard for me. I can attest to that. And then Cynthia says, yes, I like it when you're being nice to yourself. That's the kind of encouragement that I get. And, as she has pointed out, she's, she doesn't think she's as wise as she is. But she's got the patience of a saint because she knows that things take time. And it takes as much time as it takes. She's very understanding with that, and exactly what I need in my life till the end of time. Mock says sometimes you got to treat yourself like you would a great friend. I think that's a good good way to start. Treat your. I have a song, it's not done, but it's called Treat Me Like a Friend, and I had no idea of how to. I had a verse, but I didn't have another verse. But having these kinds of discussions is always inspiring. So now I'm thinking, treat me like a friend could also be an internal type of conversation as well as an external one. And even on a broader scale. So maybe there's my 3 verses right there. Treat me like a friend. Nikarasu, I like peace and quiet, not complete isolation. Yeah. There's a difference for sure. Because isolation, as Jan pointed out, can be, kind of, and earlier we were talking about spiraling, isolation can spiral you. And of course, from a poet, says writing can be a very solitary activity. Ellipses. All right. We're caught up on the comments. Nikarasu smiles, and Dawn, Cynthia and Marcus forever. Heart, heart, heart. Now she wants to keep me forever. I think I'm okay with that. And Bobby says, treat yourself like a friend. Yep. I think that's an approachable way to start loving yourself. I'm so bad at it. Self-loathing.
And it makes me wonder sometimes, because my immediate reaction is to throw myself into my work. Find your work and give yourself to it fully, which is from your work is to find your work and to give yourself to it fully. It's a Buddhist and Taoist thing.
That's actually from the Dhammapada. Your work is to find your work and give yourself to it fully. That's the what do you call it? Translation that I listened to. The original one doesn't say exactly that.
Which I try to practice. And it correlates to that belief that I once had, that if you are desiring a intimate connection with somebody, then your best bet is to put yourself to work. Create.
Janet from another planet. Have you listened to any John Prine tunes? He was a great poet. In the middle of the hurricane. Oh, that's funny because Mock just said something about I in the middle of a hurricane. But myself, in the middle of the hurricanes, the 4 hurricanes from 2020 to 2021, and the ice storm, that's when John Prine died, and I absolutely fucking lost it. John Prine is one of my favorite writers from Nashville, and I met him once with Steve Earle at Nashville River Stages. And I was such a dumb little kid thinking like, hey, these guys are rock stars, country stars, whatever. I knew that Steve Earle smoked weed, but he had been clean. I just assumed that like it was oh yeah, I'm clean, just to keep the people off of him. But I had the audacity to walk up to the barricade when I saw John Prine and Steve Earle, and I like visibly, everyone was sitting down on the hill, and I got up and I had a joint, and I walked over there and I was like looking straight at him. It was just Steve and John hanging out on the other side of the barricade, kind of further back, and I waved at him, and I had my joint in my hand, and I did the come here, and they came, and I really did, like, I don't know what I was thinking. I was really kind of blitzed. We had some acid that I think was Raid. There were people spraying Raid on blotter paper, and I think we got a bad batch of that. And cocaine was involved, and drinking and smoking, and I was just 3, 4, 5 sheets to the wind. And so whenever they started walking towards me, I completely, I didn't freeze in my movement, but because I continued walking to the barricade to meet them. But I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna say. And all right, good. Bo Beats volume's good. All right, I need to remember that because usually the VLC player needs to be adjusted, so that people don't have to adjust it when they're watching. So I get to the barricade before they do, and I'm just sitting there kind of like with my arms on it, leaned over on it, and they come up and they're just kind of looking at me like, what do you want? And I looked at Steve Earle and not John Prine, and I said, because I didn't associate John Prine with any drug use whatsoever, and I said, hey, y'all want to smoke a joint? And they kind of both looked at each other and laughed and just turned around and walked back as casually as they walked over. And I went back to my group that I was hanging with, Ryan and Paul Westbrook, and they were like, you're an idiot. Oh, man. So that's my John Prine story. And Jan, Summer's End is a perfect tune for this time of year. Summer's End, round the bend, just... Mm-hmm. So don't get me started on John Prine, because you saw what just happened. He's one of my favorite writers. One of.
Be creative.
What's up, witness? I love our little group.
I don't know if you guys dig on any of that, because it sounds, I understand how it sounds.
Amy. God. I think that's my default setting too. And I don't like placing blame, and saying, well, the reason I feel like this is because of somebody else. But the truth is, if I took my kids, and told them they were trash and they sucked and every decision they made was not the right one, and that they were going to mess up anything good that ever happened for them, then I would assume that as their parent, that would affect them, for a while, maybe perhaps a very long time. And that is how my stepdad was. Nothing is ever good enough, and you're always wrong. So when you are in that sort of environment, it's not not Scientology, right? But it's coercive, it's manipulative, it's hurtful, it's destructive, biases and culture. It can come from anywhere. And not that it bears repeating, but I'll never fall for that XYZ. I'll never fall for Scientology. Well, you might fall for a relationship that will do as much damage. Less or more, So, yeah, not that it bears repeating, but, it's again, Mark Turi is my homeboy. Is culture. And we can change our culture. We can change our own personal, what we create is our culture. So if there was some other culture before that was being created and you were part of it. That doesn't mean that parts of that don't still exist in you. That default garbage feeling may still be there. But the approachable step that someone mentioned earlier was to try to just like treat yourself like a friend. And that was Bo Beats, I think, that said that. So, Mock says it's about keeping everyone else off kilter so you can feed your ego. Yeah, I presume to think that that's, obviously about the people creating the destructive cultures and biases for you. Here, this is for you. Well, if you think of things like gifts, oftentimes you hear evangelicals talk about gifts. It's a gift from God. I've been blessed and gifts and whatever. You can reject a gift, and it's still a gift. This is an interesting angle that I thought of. For me, a while back, is that I was given that gift from my stepdad, and I accepted that fucking gift. It's a terrible gift. I accepted it. The feeling that I'm never good enough, and that it's not enough, and nothing I can ever do will be enough. And I accepted that gift because it was a gift from someone that I had some respect for and love for, and a bond with. But it's a shitty gift, and I didn't have to accept it. My brother Mark stopped accepting that gift when he was 17. And so interesting way to think of it as a gift.
Like somehow I'm validating Hubbard. But the way I see it is that anything that Hubbard used as a nugget of truth bait was not his. So it's not validating Hubbard. It's validating wherever he got it from. And I know where he got it from. What's wrong with this universe? The first three quotes are ripped off from the Tao Te Ching, the Dhammapada, the Buddha Sutras, the Art of War, old texts. And then he throws his little 2 cents in with the reactive mind, which is so insidious because those truths in the Tao and in the Buddha Sutras and the Dhammapada and the Art of War are simple truths that people recognize. Very easy to integrate. Very, very easy to integrate into your life. And to then immediately put and attach a negative to it. Something that alters that truth, that basic truth that is true, in order to enslave you is it's something that
I would say, in addition to enslaving, before the total enslavement occurs, like, it puts you in a state of being that is, dependent on the culture, not healthy. So, either a state of being in which you have very little control over that's not healthy, to enslavement. It's like a gradient scale.
Chris Shelton has mentioned in his early videos where he says, I will be recovering from Scientology for the rest of my life. And it's
Commodore Zenu. We were on post at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on TGIAC, upper hemisphere, and it's we've got let's see what to report to Commodore. It's possible that Mondays at 10 will be a thing for the self-analysis. So that's on the board. That's my statistic. And got some GI this morning. So thank you for whoever donated to the coffee fund. That's every little bit helps. Doug wasn't wrong. It's like my bank account teeters constantly on NSF. So it really does help us.
Very true.
So thank you.
True, because when you attach these incorrect things to truth, these basic truths that are so easy to just accept, like I am who I am.
Oh man, okay, so there's a few comments about the inner dialogue stuff. It appears that quite a few of us have this issue. Yeah. Poet from a poet. Most artists are our own worst critics. I think everybody's their own worst critic. And not just when it comes to our art, it spills over in other aspects of our life. I think that just art is another, if you're an artist, it's another thing to be critical about. And it just so happens to be your expression or sublimation of your life or your experience. And so it's like way more meaningful. And so you want it to be, I would assume that you would want it to be as genuine as possible. Let's see here. Care for JC. It's hard to change the inner dialogue. Witness, the inner negative self-talk is a thing I have to conquer. It's insidious. I can't remember when you popped in, but Joe Beats said treating yourself like a friend, right? It's good to treat yourself like a friend. And I think that's an approachable first step. It was for me anyways, to just sort of, even if you're not considering it, it's kind of like when you meet someone and they're just an acquaintance and you're like, could that be a friend? Like even I approach myself that way. But it's approachable, it becomes approachable for me when I take it that way. And like, okay, well, how would I be a friend to that person? But that person is yourself. So starting to ask those questions and, not be such a dick to myself, which I often am. Mock says, I like to compare to jumping over a hurdle. If you focus solely on the hurdle, chances are you'll stumble. But if you focus on landing, it's not this big hurdle in your mind. That's a great analogy. Amy Jean says, I wouldn't have worked on my inner dialogue if I hadn't seen my kids being the same way. I'm trying to figure myself out so I can help them. Oh man, love. Yeah, and I can say the same thing about my daughter. In not every aspect, thank God, right? But you see aspects of it in your children, and it is a big motivator, ain't it? Like, you never want to work on yourself, but if you have a couple of kids and you see that some of the traits or aspects of yourself in them, and you're like, whoa, I know where that goes, I know where that leads, you get pretty motivated to do something about it, even at your own disgust and hate self-hatred, self-loathing. It's like going through a swamp, just mud everywhere and nasty. But we'll do it. Commodore was having problems getting past Pluto, and I guess the Van Allen belt, and Mars weather was so bad. The weather's pretty bad here too. Anyways, need to get you a fuel fund going, so you're not always late. I know you're busy, but I'm producing here.
And I can be who I want to be. Except after C.
What I'm saying is you're getting forgetful. You're getting forgetful, old man, Commodore.
I after E, except after C, or what I can be who I want to be. Except after C. I after E, except after C, or whatever. Like, you are then altering that basic truth to include something else that is not true.
This what's the book, guys? Doug got so much shit for saying gals. I don't know whether or not to say. I'll just say everyone. What's it called? What book was it from? Where they said 1 + 1 or 2 + 2 is 5. Radiohead has a song about 2 + 2 = 5. I should know the name of this. I bet you Cynthia knows it. Brave New World. I'm not sure. Let me know in the chat.
And so you get your truths mixed up with your not truths. You get conflict in your head. These hooks that you got to pull out constantly. Pull them out, pull them out, pull them out. And there are literally thousands of these things in Scientology.
Potentially.
So I agree with Chris in that it's a lifelong thing, because even today I was thinking, like, am I thinking like a Scientologist again? I thought I got rid of all that stuff. Sometimes you have to work it out and be like, okay, there's the truth and there's the bullshit. And it's symptomatic of in other words, when you're dealing with that kind of cognitive dissonance years after, it manifests itself as a symptom of things like PTSD, complex PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, and probably a whole lot of other hosts of things. Those are the ones that I tend to have noticed.
Yeah, Doug and I spoke about induction of certain pathologies and whatnot, and this isn't. At least now I don't believe that it was all Scientology that created these pathologies that and diagnosis that I have. It contributed to some of them and added on to some of them. I didn't have any kind of I never was an anxious kid, and I wasn't all that anxious of a teenager unless I was doing, cocaine a lot. And, but, after Scientology, very anxious, more anxiety than I'd probably ever had. Smoked a lot, sort of as a self-medicated thing, smoking cigarettes.
Symptoms of. So, Seems rather pathetic. I been reconnecting with a lot of my old friends, and as the years have gone by, it's been slow reconnection. But it's like,
I want to stop right here on a comment Dawn makes to Care for JC. I find attempting to, and I think there's some, like, I don't know if you're on a phone, but I find attempting to truth my inner dialogue is still telling myself more stories about me. I recognize I am storytelling, and the emotion disappears and the story goes away. I think that's sort of the power of storytelling, whether to yourself or to someone else. This weekend, we sat down with all Travis's family and talked about the adoption. Travis and I didn't meet until we were older, and it was there are details about the adoption related to the connected families that either people did not want to talk about for a long time. It's like 40 years, and now they're comfortable discussing it because it was there were some traumatic things that went on, obviously. There were some tremendous sacrifices. There was a lot of embroiled passion involved with all of this, and two kids two kids as the result of it. So going through the stories, especially Travis's adopted mother, making her comfortable enough to talk, allowing her the space to do it in a comfortable way, was very therapeutic for everybody. Travis was with the crew right behind the curtain, and the whole day, it was, it wasn't bawling tears, but the whole day it was, eyes watering, a lot of moments like that, and it, feels like letting go. Like you said, the story goes away. It's always really there, but the stuff that we didn't want to feel or didn't have the space or time or means to feel it at the time, that's been, it's almost, you have to dig it up, and in digging it up, it's deep grief. So yeah, storytelling. It's I'm into it with the music, and now I'm getting into it with documentation stuff, and with comedy. So let's see. Mock says the weird thing about growing up with certain sports and coach as a dad, as much anxiety you have, there's this game mode keeping you going, bridging over the self-doubt in a way. And I think that is, it's like when your brain, one of the things that I can often compare things to is cortisol. And that's not the same as excitement in the chemicals like dopamine that are flowing through a system. But I think that either one can sort of bridge it. But in retrospect afterwards, like, because I can tell you, cortisol pumps, if you get them frequently, PTSD, and get hypervigilant and stuff, and there's hormones in your body, there's a recovery involved in that, because your whole endocrine system goes squirt, and produces like 4 to 5 hormones that are survival hormones. Whereas if it's dopamine, it doesn't have like that crash effect. And yeah, if I'm understanding it correctly from my last session with Damien, because I I told her, I was like, "Isn't this normal?" And she's like, "No, none of this is normal. It was not typical." There are people who, and this is what blew my mind. She's like, there are people who have relatively normal, typical, non-abusive, good upbringings. And I saw that this weekend with my brother, and in their family, and how much love is there, and always has been, and there's never been a second-class citizen in their family, never. But I'm just now starting to see it. It's not the world I lived in. All right. Yep. Dawn says it's a lifelong journey and practice. Nikarasu has a question. Is the reactive mind supposed to be the critical inner voice? Yeah. Basically, yes. Yes. I will say yes to that. To make it simple. The book that I was referring to, Beachcomber, 2 + 2 = 5, 1984. And then Poet responded to Nick. Leave that for later. Amy Jean. If I remember. Okay, y'all are talking. Cool. Conversations. And Witness says, I have to train my brain to reach for the truth and not lie, and not the lie that was put there in childhood. Yeah. See, the path for me, like, I guess circuit-wise, is like so short to the incorrect answer, right? The you're a fuck up, the garbage, like what Amy described, like, the default mode, I am garbage. I think it's just that's the easiest thing to go to. You have to go out of your way, or it feels like I have to go out of my way to reach for the truth and not that lie. Excellent. Well, Belladonna, I hope smoking has been my only stupid habit, 1 or 2 a day, going to doctor on 28th. Best of luck. I think you can do it. I know you can do it. Dawn says it's not so much the intellectuality of the stories, but what we feel that we want to rid ourselves of. But we get stuck in the right and wrong, good, bad, etc., and fight with it to avoid the emotion. Yeah, totally. Like, looking at things in terms of good, bad, right, and wrong, I have found to be very detrimental to just accepting the truth of whatever it is. So, right, wrong, good, bad, whatever. Like, how can I just accept? Cynthia says, this weekend I was told I was part of the family now. If only there was a one of us Gooba Gabba dinner. I don't know what that means. Go to the VA clinic. Roger that. We're about to wrap up here too, Brian. So good luck at the doc.
A friend of mine who I grew up with, who he actually lived with me and my mom and dad, me and my mom and Cowboy. When I was a teenager, we were both teenagers, troubled, bad kids. He's in town, and we hung out yesterday, and he's still in a little bit of disbelief that I'm back. He's like, I can't believe you're back. Like, I thought I lost you. He thought he lost me to Scientology. what am I thinking about? I'm just thinking about how I can't put into words what he told me about, from the time I got home and we reconnected when I was still a Scientologist, and now having, stopped practicing, stopped thinking like a Scientologist. The difference that he notices, and I can't put it into words for him. He'd have to tell you himself. So, that's what I got right now. That's I needed to make a video today just for my own cathartic reasons. Whether you watch it or not, whatever. Haven't been in the best mood today. Everybody has bad days. Hopefully tomorrow will be better. I've had a lot of good days in a row. So a bad day is, chalk it up to there's a time for everything. And I'm not overly concerned about it. But there's a deep sense of loneliness that I was feeling, and need for some sort of intimacy. And here it is. This is what it is. This is it. Welcome to the intimacy. There's a part of me that thinks that some of the things that have happened, Scientology and before, make a relationship with me very difficult. Whether it's with a dude or a girl, whether it's because I'm, it's difficult both ways. There's things that are just difficult to explain and understand, and I get that. It's just who I am. Doesn't change my want or desire for intimacy, but I don't go out looking for it, really. And it doesn't come knocking on my door. So, whatever that is, I try to appreciate the relationships that I do have in my life for what they are, whatever they are, in whatever capacity it is. So.
L. Ron Hubbard, Commodore. I spent so long in that hole. He needs to get his own contract back. L. Ron Hubbard was banned from this channel for like 7 years. I thought he was Osa. Okay, Janet. No problem. I think it's about to be done up in here anyway. Yeah, look, last bit. So, there's my...
Hope you guys have a good night.
Have a good day.
Good Labor Day. I'll see you guys later.
All right. So we'll do a little music to go out with, and that'll be the Monday thing. Well, let's see here. I thought I had another tab, but I don't. Okay. So I hope everyone. Well, it's night. Thank you everyone for coming. And hanging out and talking and sharing stuff. I'm gonna look for something to let's see. It's if it's Mondays, I guess, and we're going into deep stuff. Like the ending track should be upbeat, I guess, motivational, maybe. So, oh yeah, let's do something that like got some make you want to move. This is Lingus, which is a friend of mine who passed a couple years ago, much too young, and I was given the masters for this in 2006, and I held on to them. And when Brian passed and another member of another band passed, it was like, okay, we need to start publishing this stuff. This music needs to be heard. So this is there's a digital release, but we pressed 100 vinyls. We raised the money to do that through the community that knew Brian. And if you knew Brian, you loved Brian. And he's the one playing the bass and singing. He was also in the other video where he did the Message in a Bottle. So same, what did he say? But that was way back when Doug, all those years ago. I don't hold you at, okay. Love you, Nick. All right, we're going to play some tunes and fade out. Y'all have a wonderful week. And I'm going to go get something to eat. But let's listen to this tune. We got 5 minutes. And then I'll run the outro. Fade out. Peace out.
How I feel. you